Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Remember the really early days of the FNAF fandom? Like 2014 to 2016? Well, I do. I was there. Let's talk about it. Back in good old 2014, I was in the 5th grade, and a brand new game had swept the nation, and specifically the schools. They had to give assemblies about this new thing.
Was that the bite of 87?
They were warning us about this new drug in health class. That new drug was Five Nights at Freddy's. I was the exact right age at the time. Ground zero for FNAF fandom. I had kids showing me on Google Maps there was Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, that one picture of the animatronic that kinda looks like Foxy, and this. Bye, Mom. I was there before William Afton existed, and they called Purple Guy Vincent and drew him like this and shipped him with Phone Guy, whose actual head was a phone. I was there when MatPat dropped the first FNAF game theory about how it was based on a real shooting at Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, Grandpa. Seeing as how I was the prime demographic for FNAF games, YouTube videos, toys, what have you, you would imagine FNAF holds a place in my heart to this day. I mean, not as much as it should've. I never played the games, and I think that kind of caused me to fall off. I was a very early adopter of cringe culture. For most of middle school and into high school, FNAF was more cringy than cool, and I think a lot of other kids my age started feeling like that too around 2016. It makes a lot of sense that a lot of the people perpetuating FNAF epic cringe compilations were children because honestly, adults had bigger problems in their lives to worry about. Anyways, I missed out on a good portion of FNAF content from 2016 to around 2019. And when the eventual FNAF wave of nostalgia rolled around in 2020, I found myself being lost a little bit because I only know the ancient old stuff and the super modern recent FNAF VHS type material. So I think in order to celebrate Halloween this year, why don't we strap in and immerse ourselves in the world of FNAF fan content? Maybe see what I missed out on. One thing I for sure remember are these slideshow animations, where they'd put the FNAF characters with dialogue from SpongeBob or stand-up comedians or other media. Whenever I have a new interest or make a new fake cartoon in my head, I always do these stupid memes with the characters, with audio from other things, and I think that had to start with this. This for sure started a whole canon of animatics people would make, based on very specific videos. Malk, the Rhett and Link waffle sketch, Who Broke It, the Crayon song gets ruined, the Salt and Pepper Diner. I'm probably going off the rails into mid-2010s theater kid fandom right now, and that's a video for another day. For a while, these had the biggest grip on me as a kid, and while it sure doesn't look like much now, it had so much charm. These were so simple, I felt like I could make them if I wanted to. Dude, I even tried making my own on my school tablet. Sonic 99 Ray was the biggest, but you had Ava G or Baby Sugar here too. Sonic 99 Ray was kinda infamous because there was a lot of drama surrounding them. Like as a kid, I saw this My Chemical Romance animatic and knew something was up. Back then, she got this big hate base and just kept escalating these conflicts with people until there were purported deaths that were later debunked, but wow.
Sonic 99 Re. Please get off the internet, your fandom is a cancer, you made them into zombies who also hungry for more videos.
A lot of this looks like the result of children being left unsupervised online, and a pretty good argument for why that shouldn't be a thing. The Sonic 99 Ray saga never really ended. I think as recently as 2023, there were call-out threads about her. Some of the claims are a little yikes, but this isn't the kind of channel where I document every moment of her life. Sonic 99 Ray's videos exist as a fond memory, but not without some dark associations. I remember she was one of the first people to introduce me to the concept of animation memes, which did not fall under my definition of meme at the time. These were just characters dancing and whatever, but these two got really big. I always thought they were uninteresting and for squares, but these kids were learning the ins and outs of Adobe Flash at age 13, while I was sitting there picking my nose, so who really won? Another very early genre of FNAF animations were these animated Let's Plays. These weren't like Game Grumps animateds where they're doing improv or whatever and coming up with visuals to match. They were more kind of imagining the Let's Player in the FNAF, and having that be the main draw. Sort of like making your own FNAF parody, but with improv dialogue. Because it's really nothing more than what if the gamer was in the game, I'm not too interested in these. I know Markiplier had some of them and they got really big. iCan has Cupquake had these ones that I think came out before any of the other ones, like really early after FNAF got big. Also, they were done by Jaden Animations. Yes, Jaden Animations. Went from doing animations for a Let's Player to winning the Squid Game. What WTF? Cupquake got other animators to do different things for her channel and kind of had her own thing going on with this little purple hair character. Even some fan songs, which I think got a resurgence on TikTok. Would this be a good time to talk about FNAF fan songs?
Five Nights at Freddy's, that's where I wanna be.
I'm not the biggest fan of FNAF fan songs, and half the people who made the famous ones are probably on a list somewhere, but I appreciate the classics. Living Tombstones 1 through 3 are absolute bops. Join us for a bite. I never understood the lyric, and Freddy told us you're an organ donor. What does that have to do with anything? Maybe related to something in the game? I assume the song already isn't following the FNAF lore. Like they're talking to the player, and not the actual character of Michael Afton. We're alt-right? What are you on about?
Hey fanboy, nice to meet you.
I found this playlist called All FNAF Fan Songs. Oh dude, this is the Library of Alexandria. I forgot about the Living Tombstone FNAF 4 song, which also slaps. I think all the old ones they did are classics for sure. And you know what? As much as I can't really get behind their old brony music, the Random Encounters FNAF musical is pretty good. These Minecraft ones are bizarre. You have to know by this point they were targeted at kids, but they still animated William Afton killing all the children. I mean, it's in Minecraft, so it's not that bad, but wow, dude. Wait, these animatronic models look familiar? We'll get back to these later. But for now, we gotta talk about the FNAF movie. No, not that one. The original. Five Nights at Freddy's, the full movie, new ending, Tony Kryknight. Tony Kryknight is an animator who started out on YouTube making videos like Racist Dog, Gore Warning, and other kind of silly little shorts with these furry characters. Eventually, they did this FNAF short with Mangle and Foxy, and then Chica's there too, and she's upset because there's a whole love triangle, and this is communicated in a 30-second thing. I assume this got really popular, so he started making more, and it developed into this story about Chica being jealous of Mangle and disfiguring her, and then Mangle starts attacking the other animatronics. Eventually, she exiles herself to the basement where Springtrap is because, if you couldn't tell already, this doesn't follow the FNAF lore at all. Springtrap wants to marry Mangle, which makes the love triangle even deeper, but that's not his real motivation. It's because Mangle actually has the reincarnated soul of Golden Freddy, who used to run the pizzeria with Springtrap, but then the Freddy's animatronics took it over. So then Springtrap takes Mangle's soul and puts it into the body of Golden Freddy, and then all the animatronics, including Chica, who feels sorry about what she did to Mangle, find Golden Freddy, and they all fight, and everything turns out okay in the end. I actually loved watching this. Again, it's nothing like the actual plot of FNAF, but that's okay, because the FNAF plot is all over the place. This, on the contrary, has an actual tangible story with characters and motivations, and it's so perfectly dramatic that it kept me hooked. I also just really admire how it looks. For Flash animation standards, this isn't bad at all. The movement is a little inconsistent with the tweens coming in just to make things easier, but I don't really care that much. They're just being resourceful here, and I can't get mad at that. In fact, that's one of my favorite things about the look of it, how cost-effective it manages to be. There are a lot of parts where the characters are in silhouette to not have to color them or save time animating specific things. Things like that are what really inspire me in fan projects like this. The designs very much remind me of older, cutesy, Disney-inspired furry art, but for the FNAF characters, it works a lot. There's no sort of art style clash with the way they're depicted here because it's the kind of art style you'd expect these 90s pizza kids fun center animatronics to be drawn in. And the story, it's going for a lot of emotions, which works with that sort of Disney Don Bluth look. If I'm gonna bring up Don Bluth, I gotta mention Cos Perry, who did these amazing FNAF fake movie posters, and they were like 15 drawing like this. I was still picking my nose at that age. This is really impressive and it nails the style completely. These have to be one of my favorite FNAF fan things ever. I've avoided talking about FNAF parodies so far because that is a whole world in itself. Being the big game at the time, you had a lot of people who made these gaming parody animations throw their hats into the ring with FNAF and make bank. People like Crazy Boris Productions. Did Crazy Boris Productions predict Mr. Burcham? Pymations had the series 5 AM at Freddy's. The original isn't anything too special in the grand scheme of FNAF parodies, but it got so big, of course you gotta do a series. I like the formula they all seem to have, where one of the animatronics is smart and the rest are dumb. The "that's not my wallet" energy in the second one makes it the best. Plus, it's one of those YouTube thumbnails that just feels iconic in a weird way. Like, I feel like I've seen this everywhere. FNAF 3 one is good. FNAF 4, who cares? Get to Roxanne Wolf. FNAF Security Breach is actually when you see a lot of these animators who did older stuff come back, usually as some sort of throwback. The Final Night by Movie Unleashers is this absolutely wild series about the FNAF Fazbear gang. It was obviously meant to be a one-off, but then turned into this whole giant saga. Parts 2 and 3 each introduce these world-changing concepts, like Freddy protesting for animatronics to have rights, or the FNAF gang mass-producing new animatronics to be like servants for the humans and stuff, and then a war between the humans and animatronics, who are supposed to be the shadow animatronics from FNAF 3, I think. The third one is supposed to be a commentary on the state of FNAF videos on YouTube, with one of the characters having this speech about the market being oversaturated with the same sort of thing, and there being too many animatronics that do too many things. Nowadays it reads more like a statement about AI, which is really silly. Now somebody's gonna quote retweet some AI bro on X with this cartoon and be like, yep, Five Nights at Freddy's South Park predicted AI, that'll show them. I had to bring this up as a shout out to my Spanish speaking viewers. Someone suggested FNAF HS, not FNAF VHS, FNAF HS. This was a series about human versions of the FNAF characters in high school. I mean, I like the gimmick of these early episodes where the commenters get to choose what happens next, and the art style has a lot of charm. Apparently there are a ton of controversies in the Spanish speaking part of the FNAF community relating to the show and its cast, which I'd rather not get into. So there, I'll pretend I can't read it. Keeping up with our international theme, here's a FNAF cartoon from good old England. Foxy Gets Hooked by Harvey Rothman is such a gem. The character movements are so fluid and expressive, among other generic compliments people give to animation. It's just good looking, and you could say it's a bit erratic, but that's clearly part of the style. There are so many creative little gags, it's really a blast to watch, and I love the atmosphere it has too. The colors and sound design make this feel like an empty building at night or very early morning, and that's impressive with how wacky some of these character movements can be, which you think would take away from that. In general, this guy is a really talented artist. Go give him a follow. What's next? No. What do you want me to say about these? I can put the Springtrap clip up here.
Action is great. So many guys I can...
Why did they change the art style in the Security Breach one? Next bullet point, please. Source filmmaker, and Gmod to an extent. Before Blender was the little darling of 3D internet animations, it seemed like everybody who did 3D stuff on YouTube was using Valve software and character models. A lot of these SFM videos have such great vibes, like they were clearly just made for the lulz. And that's really what I love about this type of thing. SFM, pizza, despite some of the off-color humor, I still think it's a fun watch. A lot of that purely for fun presentation is lost today for sure. The one where it's just the camera flying around and they're singing the FNAF song by Living Tombstone is so legitness. Plus, this You Are a Pirate one, how could you go wrong? I was scrolling through all these unassuming playlists of old FNAF videos, and then I found this one called Bonnie and Chica the Parents, which is part of a series where Bonnie and Chica have kids. Like each episode, they have another kid, it looks like, and then some new character comes in to cause trouble in the pizzeria, like the puppet from FNAF 2 or Springtrap, who like does magic to summon a demon from hell, and the babies always end up in the plot somehow, including this tiny baby Bonnie Chica hybrid. Springtrap in the final episode kidnaps them and wants to test out a new weapon on them, and what he means by this isn't just to like use their souls or whatever to power it, he just wants to shoot the baby animatronics with this big default sci-fi gun. What the hell am I even watching? A lot of these channels who made these FNAF SFM animations, or had one big hit I guess, might have gotten bought out by the same company because a few of them share the same sort of AI generated profile pictures and post these very content farmy Proficia gaming-esque videos. This is more recent, but it was a viewer suggestion. I watched Night of the Pizza Bear, and man, even though it's from 2018, it's the exact kind of thing me and my brother would have quoted all the time when we were younger. One more thing I want to bring up is Andrew John 100. I saw the Chasington FNAF plush video and I was just so intrigued. I had to check these these old animations out. These were really fun. The animator behind these obviously also made, and still makes, plush videos, and these have that same vibe of a kid with toys making up random stories. And here, before we get into some other more infamous FNAF content creators and sort of resurgence the whole fandom had in 2020, I have to bring up some miscellaneous things I found in my research and just vague memories I was able to uncover. These FNAF MMD models, specifically these ones where they reanimate the vines with the FNAF anime characters, are amazing. These belong in a museum. I love how Freddy and Golden Freddy were interpreted as these like Tumblr sexy men. This was something I saw as a kid. I think it might have been on icanhascheeseburger.com, the ditch I was born and brought up in. But there was this fake FNAF 3 trailer where it's a third-person game with the character walking around a mall. I know it's giving Mario and Unreal, but this was really cool and something I actually might want to play. I need a FNAF-esque game where you're running around in some kind of big complex like Security Breach, but it's not bad. Smike. FNAF video essays didn't really exist back then when I was into it, at least. Not in the way there is now. These days, you can pop on Oh Yeah and hear everything about the newest FNAF fan game or community drama, but back then in my day, you had to watch Smike. So what Smike would do is he would make these top 10 videos, like top 10 animatronics, top 10 jump scares, but after a while he was making so many of these videos so frequently that he just started doing videos about anything related to FNAF, like top 10 facts about every animatronic. This is the ultimate iPad baby slop top 10 content, but I remember there being so much of these, and they got pretty good views too. You gotta give it to people who were willing to sell out. Sorry, I have nothing against this man personally, for the record, I respect him. Gotta give it to the people who were willing to sell out this much and crank all this out by themselves without the help of a team of 100 people or ChatGPT to write all the scripts. Especially when you consider there were certain animation channels doing sort of the same thing. Can you guess what I'm going to segue into with that comment, viewer? Editor, put evil cackling sound.wav here.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
What do you know about 3 Lame Studios, nephew? This was an animator who would make the most unhinged, incomprehensible parodies featuring FNAF, Angry Birds, The Simpsons, oh, especially The Simpsons. And I think besides FNAF/Undertale cringe compilations, that was the biggest exposure his animations had to the broader internet. His most famous video for sure has to be the Twerk of 87. I honestly might do another video on 3 Lame because I'm really fascinated by all the weird motifs his Content Farm era animations had. The traced Mario Kart models based on racist Mario, the Angry Birds animations, his weird fascination with The Simpsons and the Hulk. Aside from the Twerk of 87, he did so many other FNAF videos. FNAF meets Walter White, FNAF karting, these FNAF fan songs with these bizarre visuals. Aside from the comedic value of some of these, I genuinely admire how nonsensical and overstimulating they are. I have a soft spot for more psychedelic styles of animation, and as you imagine, you're not really getting that with internet video game parodies that often. I really like this one with the anime-headed FNAF night guard on the 3D background. I don't know, there's something really hypnotic about a lot of these where I can't get too mad at them. A good 3 Lame video is like one of those carnival rides that has Elsa and Paw Patrol and Batman and SpongeBob and Mario painted on them, and you ride it and it doesn't stop and it keeps going faster, and the guy operating it does not care if it flings you off the side to your death. Also, I want to thank Oh Yeah for giving me a lot of the answers to what happened to 3 Lame after he made his mark with these. In short, because of both the first adpocalypse and declining views, he started to get really angry and bitter. You can attribute the overall energy of his later videos from 2017 to this fact. I don't want to say they devolved, but this is when he started doing all the weird Cuphead videos you might have seen. I don't even think kids would want to watch this at that point. Like FNAF twerking and some of the others are understandable, but this is just a mental breakdown. After a while, he gave up doing videos in English and moved over to these sort of commentary style videos in his native Italian. He eventually privated all of these, so maybe he just got a real job and quit YouTube. The 3 Lame legacy comes to an end. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. So, remember those Minecraft animations I brought up earlier? Well, they never stopped. In fact, they kind of evolved into their own media empire. Zamimation kept doing these FNAF and Minecraft shorts and music videos, which led up to the eventual launch of Fazbear and Friends. This would serve as the foundation for everything else on the channel up until and including now, and into the future for all I know. And these have numbers like they're a series, but that's not including all the hundreds of shorts that they've made in this universe. The Fazbear and Friends episodes themselves are really professional, both the animation and the general writing and presentation. This is the closest thing to an actual FNAF show for kids I think that'll happen for the time being. Like, this could air on modern day Nickelodeon and not feel out of place. All the stories are these pretty standard cartoon plots, with this relatively kid-friendly sense of humor, down to these Guy Moon-esque music cues. This feels like a real show. This is barely a parody, and the only thing keeping them from being sued by Scott Cawthon is the Minecraft art style. After a few episodes, they started doing shorter skits, and those did so well apparently that they became the channel's bread and butter. It very quickly devolves into FNAF meets Bendy and Doki Doki Literature Club and Among Us and Rainbow Friends, and let's not sugarcoat it, with the characters they choose to use and these thumbnails and titles, they know what they're doing. It's very shameless, believe you me, but I as an adult cannot stop watching these because of how not like those kind of videos they are. Going deeper into the animation, the posing of the characters is really dynamic, not restricting themselves to the Minecraft style of movement, and giving the characters bends in their arms. It helps to give them a lot of personality. For me, I think Bendy and Circus Baby stand out, each for different reasons. It honestly is close to something like the Amazing Digital Circus, how much they lean into squash and stretch with the 3D characters. In fact, I'm pretty sure these guys worked for or have connections with Glitch Productions, because they have videos where it sounds like the real Digital Circus voice actors. Of course they get to Digital Circus too. Pomni meets Freddy and the gang. Why not? I remember these Squid Game ones getting pretty big on TikTok a few years ago. These are probably the best examples of the humor in these, and they're really charming with how snappy the jokes can be and each character having their own quirks. Eventually there was a bunch of deliberation about not doing music videos anymore, or doing them again, and they brought back Fazbear and Friends, but it completely goes off the rails into this epic saga about the FNAF gang having to kill all the other crossover characters to save their universe. That's supposed to be a commentary on the state of the channel. These and the one they just put out at the time of writing this are clearly the ones they're investing the most time and effort into. The lighting in these is breathtaking. Not only is it rendered like 8K HDR ray tracing or whatever, but they use light and the 3D camera in so many ways. It looks like a theatrical movie at points, and for FNAF and Minecraft, that's completely unheard of. And the writing in these ones too, I got invested in the weird time travel plot, and the one in the courtroom where MatPat comes out put a big old smile on my face. These have so much soul put into them, and I feel like they're having a lot of fun with these. That being said, as much as I admire these channels, yes, because there's two of them run by the same team, for how they're able to rise above the ranks of other content farms, there's no escaping the fact that this is a content farm. And there are things about this whole operation that make me a little uneasy. One, these are the same people who made Poppy Playtime. While they're not putting Huggy Wuggy in these all the time because I think people would see the obvious conflict of interest, it is like corporate greed on a Disney level, because you're making the game, and that has its own issues, believe you me, but also putting out these videos, marketing them with your characters, and having this cycle of Poppy Playtime, FNAF, Minecraft corporate synergy. It's not the most morally bankrupt thing in the world because big companies do it too, and the channels aren't too in your face about it, but you're still not being open about it. Like, honestly, how many kids are gonna know these are the same people who made the game? Whatever, get that bag. The second point here I think is more of a reasonable complaint. These videos are oddly, I don't want to say sexualized, but some of them are. With these animations of Circus Baby and all these other female characters like Purple Girl.
Ooh, feisty little thing.
It's probably just a product of seeing what drives engagement, and there's worse stuff out there. I'm not saying that we need to make a call-out thread on Blue Sky for these people. I like these animations, but I'm just calling it like I see it, folks. Am I too wrong for calling it like I see it? Could a guy call it like he sees it nowadays? Overall, this animation FNAF content is a diamond in the rough, and for sure has a ton of talent put into it, and deserves praise for sure. But it still falls into the traps that a lot of these less likable content farm channels do. While most FNAF fan content early on and into whenever focused on making the games funny, with some going for more angsty or horror vibes, a real resurgence happened around the late 2010s for scary Five Nights at Freddy's content, mostly in the form of analog horror. Despite the you-know-what related to the creator, FNAF VHS was the original trendsetter for all this, using the format of these employee training tapes and security footage to give a new angle on the already existing story of the games. The only other major analog horror before this was Local 58, I think, so this had a lot of original ideas, and helped to introduce a lot of the tropes that by now are cliches of cliches. I tried to make my own analog horror in I think 2022 and it never went anywhere and I lost the login to the account, so don't count on any more episodes. But going back to that point, FNAF VHS paved the way for a ton of other series, like the Walton Files, Harmony and Horror. The Walton Files I remember being really big at the time it was coming out. Looking back on those, I won't say the early episodes were up to the same standard as FNAF VHS, but I like the idea of them going for a more stylized approach to the designs, and some of these trademark scares are pretty iconic. I'm not super big into it, so I can't say anything with authority, but analog horror really felt like the 2020s version of creepypastas, getting its start in the decade prior and then exploding in popularity when the next rolled around, before petering out midway through the decade. Apparently, Local 58 is turning 10 this year, and the YouTube uploads in 2027. Another aspect of bringing FNAF back was people memeing on it again.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
A few years before, in around 2018, people were falling back in love with Minecraft, so FNAF was obviously the next big thing to have that sort of redemption, as both were big victims of cringe compilations and all that jazz. And nothing else besides Undertale really I've seen that's been able to come back, at least in the circles I was in at the time. Maybe creepypastas? But that's more the reverse, where people are digging those up and saying, wow, this is bad, I was scared of this. Five Nights at Freddy's is a lot different from some of the other fandom things I've done these sort of retrospectives on. It looks like a smaller amount of people who did Sonic or MLP stuff back in the day went on to be really big, compared to the folks who dared to make FNAF parodies back in 2014. It seems like FNAF was the ultimate thing to ride the coattails of. Pymations, Game Theory, Jaded Animations, many others were able to catapult their own careers, at least it seems, off the backs of FNAF's success on YouTube. But I think it might only look like that because of how big some of these people are, when you still have folks like Tony Krynite or what's left of Sonic 99 Ray, who for one reason or another had more of 15 minutes of fame. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get ready for work, for my job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I hope I don't get jump scared by Golden Freddy, dude. That would suck.
Who you gonna call when you want pizza there? Who you gonna call when games are there? Who you gonna call when there's an animatronic bear? Come down to Freddy Fazbear Pizza, Fred Bear Bear.